Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to a Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, Tuesday night as we record this. Welcome them in, as we often do when the Celtics play the Clippers. Lon Murray from The Athletic / New York Times. And he got stopped by Boston for the second time, you said yesterday? TD Garden, second or third?
TD Garden. I've been to Boston. I want to say a few more times besides that, but as far as TD Garden, like that was the first time I was in the locker room. First time I was, you know, like through that whole maze that it takes y'all to get to the Boston press conference room. Like that was crazy. Um, like that's definitely the wildest route I've ever been on to get to a press conference room in the league so far. But um, yeah, yesterday was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, and once you got through it, you got to ask Joe a couple questions. Which, I thought went decently well. That was a pretty good Joe conference by his standards.
Yeah,
So,
I got to ask him. You know, this is Joe's third year coaching that team, and it's like I wound up asking him the variations of the same thing every time I see him. But obviously I didn't get to go to Boston last year or the year before, so I'm looking forward to asking him something completely different when the Celtics show up in LA in January.
so 2 years ago when we talked, I think one of the games that year out in LA, Clippers just kind of handed it to the Celtics. Did a great job taking away those threes. Looked like that could have been a collision course finals matchup. Didn't happen. Last year, similar deal. Celtics blew them out in one of the games, but Clippers came into the Garden last year, and Sean Grande, who does the play-by-play for the Celtics there, I think going in the last night, Celtics had won 50 of 57 at home and only lost by double digits, I believe, in one game over that stretch, and that was to the Clippers. And so, last night comes around, obviously no Kawhi, no
Maybe they
Powell.
remembered that game, huh, Bobby?
But I'm going into it and I'm like, all right, Clippers are obviously shorthanded, but they've played the Celtics tough in different spots over the last couple of years. They do a good job handling those threes. And to start the game, the Celtics go 1 of 10 from three, and I'm like, all right, here we go again. Clippers know how to guard them outside. They got all those different wings and stuff that they can throw at them. And then boom, it's just an avalanche again. And that's been the whole story of this year, that he can maybe hold down the 3-point shooting for a minute or two, but then boom, it's 13 of 19 or 20 of 44 at one point. I think the Celtics got to in this game from three. It's crazy what they're doing right now, and LA's in an interesting spot themselves. But this had been a good defense, a team that stops the three pretty well going against Boston, and just like everybody else early this season, got overwhelmed last night.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta mention that the only other time I've been in Boston for a Celtics game was December of 2021, and some people might remember that game. So that was Ime Udoka's lone season as the Celtics head coach. It was, I gotta say, one of the nastiest shooting performances, if not the nastiest shooting
Both
performance
ways, yeah.
I've ever saw in person. I mean, the Celtics. What was that game, man? Like the Celtics, they were terrible shooting the three ball. Like they were legitimately like record breaking terrible. I haven't seen the numbers since, but yeah, they missed 38 of 42 threes that night. They were held to 82 points, and this was a incredibly depleted Clippers roster. No Kawhi, no Paul George, no Isaiah Hartenstein, no Nico Batum, Brandon Boston Jr. We were all excited to see Brandon Boston Jr. play because just a couple weeks earlier or a few weeks earlier, he lit up the Celtics, who were taunting him for his G League performance, and he lit the Celtics up for his breakout scoring game, but then he
Played
comes
some
down with
weird games
COVID.
between these two.
Yeah, and his name's Boston, so everybody wanted to see Boston play in Boston, you know. Um, and and yeah, like it was a historically horrible shooting performance. But I've been asking about threes for the last couple seasons, both ways, shooting them as well as defending them. And I feel like people get excited about, or not even excited. People love to hate watch basketball these days. And, I feel like people get into this like thing where they just look at the number at the end and go from there, about judging how a game went. And people be telling on themselves, right? But how are you defending the threes? Are you preparing for a team that is going to look for opportunities to attempt those shots? In the first quarter, it didn't go great, but I saw the attempts and I was like, that's not great. They're getting a ton of attempts, right? Obviously, Boston missed them, so the game was not a complete blowout yet. They were still up 7, which shows you that the Clippers' offense was not going to give them a chance to win the game. But again, probably ahead of ourselves. That second quarter, watching those threes, I knew that the Clippers were cooked because there was the one play before that first time out where the Clippers actually score, right? Forget who scored. I want to say it was Jordan Miller because Jordan was no Zubats winds up scoring, right? And so reason I thought of Jordan was because Jordan had the inbounder. So he was kind of trailing. Zoo was kind of trailing. Other side, Nico had his matchup. But Kevin Porter Jr. was on ball. Terrence Mann was kind of just he got lost, right? Peyton Pritchard is up the floor. Peyton had already hit a three, 4 seconds after a Kevin Porter Jr. miss. The Celtics had already come out of the second quarter, first play of second quarter, they ran Sam Hauser on some action to get him open for a three. So when Pritchard hits this three, before the shot even goes in, Norman Powell, who's in street clothes, he's losing his shit. Jeff Van Gundy, the three goes in, and honestly, Jeff, if he had a clipboard, it would have broke. Tyronn Lue, he normally doesn't call timeouts and like yells at guys, but he calls a timeout and he was angry as soon as he got on the court. Kevin Porter Jr. and Terrence Mann, like not as much Terrence, but Kevin was upset because I don't think that was Kevin's responsibility. Whoever let Peyton Pritchard get behind them screwed up. And that was the thing. When you're playing a team that shoots threes with volume, you have to take away their opportunities to get the looks that they want. And so when you got guys coming off the screens, when you got guys, it's like you do that, you do some ghost screen action, or you got guys, they force a switch. And if both of those guys have their feet inside the 3-point line, Bobby, guess what's going to happen? A pull-up shooter is going to pull up and shoot the damn shot. And that's what it is. People, it's not like they're going to come down and take the first. It's like, yeah, they're going to take the first good look available. So if you're going to give them good looks, if you're not going to be physical, if you're not going to get back, if you're going to basically get lost in the half court, you're going to set yourself up to, be subjected to a make or miss situation. And they only shot the three well that 1 second quarter. Outside that second quarter, they were 10 of 34. I'm pretty sure that's well below league average. I'm pretty sure that's well below the Celtics average. But yeah, if you're going to get cooked with them shooting threes like layups, you get what you get.
Yeah, they're going to play the volume game too there. So you get that one great quarter. You can have the 3 other cold quarters, but that one great quarter gets you back because you get so many off. They're so comfortable taking them too. I start to think about it from the other team's perspective there because obviously tied before the games, like you can't get overwhelmed by the threes and, you don't want to give up layups either by being too aggressive defensively in the 3-point line. But I can't fathom every night the amount of threes teams still end up giving up there, whether because they're helping too much on drives or they're just lost in transition. The Celtics going to take a lot of transition threes too. Like they're just going to get them up. And teams are still trying to figure out, 1, how to stop them from getting them up, and 2, how to generate their own threes the other way. And I think that's where teams really end up struggling is like, you still want to play your game. You're not a team that shoots 50 threes a game. how are you going to get up 53s in a game against Boston, when that comes up on the schedule. And in this game, the Clippers end up shooting 26, which is like half as many as the Celtics shot here. And that just immediately puts you at a disadvantage. And, I don't know what you do because, even when the Celtics are missing, they're getting on the offensive boards. They have a guy like Porzingis back now who can hurt you inside. And when the Clippers drew close in this game, what'd they do? They threw it to Porzingis a couple of times and had him face up Coffee, and he got by Zubac for a layup. So there's just so many layers to this, obviously, beyond the threes that make it difficult to just key in on the threes and try to stop that and say you got the Celtics beat at that point.
Yeah, and to be, I don't want to be dismissive of what's in front of us. That second quarter was a quarter that no team has had this season. I don't know who they tied that quarter record with, but damn it, a record is a record. Like, you don't go to, no team goes into a game saying they're going to hit 12 threes in a quarter. A team is cool hitting 12 threes in a game, bro. Like, let's just be real, So, like, but the Celtics won the game because they hit those threes in that quarter. It was a blowout and a non-competitive event for the most part because of all the other stuff that happened in the damn game. I talked about the first quarter offense for the Clippers. It was horrible. Like, they couldn't really get to anything. The only guy who drew free throws in that first quarter was the Ivica Zubac, and he missed both of those free throws. So that's the thing. The Celtics do so many other things incredibly well, and people just want to talk about threes because it's low-hanging fruit, and let's be real, because people don't like Boston. So they don't want to see you happy, Bobby, or the people that they don't want to see your family happy. They don't want to see the people that who goes to the games happy. Now, I don't want to typecast you. I want to be a lot more general about it,
Well, do you enjoy watching it? You're sitting there last night watching the 53s go up. Do you enjoy it?
Did I enjoy it?
Do
Are
you
you
enjoy
asking
it?
me? Or you're asking me?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm neutral. I'm neutral to it. Like, because I'm paying attention to other things. You know what I mean? That's like, you get to what you get to. Like, um, so it's like, yeah, it's cool when it goes in. When it doesn't, it's like, all right, what else do you do? Like, in other words, I'm not going to hate it if they make threes or miss threes. I'm not going to love it either. I'm looking at everything, and that's what I'm saying. It's like there's so much. For me, it's like the threes is baked into the recipe with the Boston Celtics. It's the other stuff that is more interesting to me personally. So I'm more interested in how Boston defends without fouling as well as they do. I'm more interested in how the Celtics take care of the basketball, you know, and win the possession battle. Because getting threes up is one thing. But if you're going to take more threes than another team, you probably want to win some battles that allow you to have more shot attempts overall than your opponent as well. And the Celtics consistently do that because they're not a terrible rebounding team, and because they're the best team in one of the very best teams in basketball, not turning the ball over, putting themselves in position to where they don't get shots. It's like the Celtics are so ISO heavy. This is what separates them from the Golden State Warriors, for instance. The Warriors are going to pass the ball a lot and get their threes that way, but the Warriors also donate possessions. Like they will turn the ball over. The Clippers match up incredibly well with the Warriors this season. They played them twice, both on rest disadvantages. One time up in Chase Center, and they won both of those games. Whereas they go to Boston and they get smacked. It's a matter of how they're getting the shots with a Golden State team, because you know that they're trying to get their threes based off of ball movement and body movement. You can actually defend that pretty well sometimes. But with Boston, the ball sticks, but it sticks in a way where it's secure. They know that, you know, they had a lot of assists, but only 11 turnovers. It's both. If you can pass the ball and get good shots, but also take care of the basketball, Boston doesn't pass the ball a ton, but when they do, it's probably a dime pass, And the other thing they do really well, and you saw Kristaps Porzingis make an impact here. Just in general, like, they make your shots hard. Like, you saw in the post game, Jaylen Brown talking about how he defended his ass off for a good 20 seconds of a possession, and then Kristaps Porzingis is behind him to block a shot with two hands and force a shot clock violation. Stuff like that is going to energize you. And so, I feel like they're a much more complete team. Kristaps didn't even play great. They played a lot better with him off the floor than when he was on the floor. But it's like that's what's interesting to me is how Boston is not just this team that comes down and shoots threes. I want to see a team overplay them and see how that works out for a team. Like I'd rather teams are afraid to do that because they'd rather be hit by the threes, to be honest with you, Bobby.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah, and that blows my mind. You'll still see Tatum draw double teams. You'll still see help come around the rim, even though, Holiday's standing there in the corner, or White's out there on the wing, and all these guys are options for them. The Clippers gave away those Porzingis threes early, and he missed them, but, Joe was thrilled before the game that he took those, or after the game that he took those, and that those were available to him there, because he's going to hit those at some point down the line here. I want to give a quick shout out to Prize Picks. Big week for over there. You can go get a Tyreek Hill Phil's free square right now for Thanksgiving, as well as $50 when you play $5 over there. You know the deal. 2 or more players, pick more or less on their stat projections. Pick more on the Celtics threes. It's going to happen. And use the code CLNS to let them know we sent you over there. That's Prize Picks code CLNS. And you want to go to the game in Chicago on Friday, Celtics are out there, or you're in Cleveland on Sunday, they'll be back home next week anyway if you're here in Boston. But all your Celtics tickets, football, hockey, concerts, and events are available over on the Game Time app. Use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase over there. Get panoramic views of your seat, my favorite feature, as well as all-in price, and they'll let you know what you're going to pay right from the app there. So go check it out. Download the Game Time app today, create an account. Use the code CLNS and get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. While you mentioned Kristaps, we all got to see him back for the first time since the finals, looking mostly like himself. It's only going to grow here as he gets his feet under him, his conditioning, and, you're always worried about an injury being around the corner with a guy like this who's dealt with them throughout his career. But when he's out there, like you add a post-up layer, you add more size, so the rim protection issue that the Celtics have dealt with a little bit to start this year disappeared in this game. And the Clippers couldn't get much going outside of Zubac. And then, you have this guy who's just such a threat in his own right alongside Brown and Tatum offensively. So he's healthy. You got Horford doing what he's doing, and everybody else is there. Are they just going to run away with this thing this year? Like, is this like the 2009 Celtics if KG didn't get hurt?
I don't think anyone in Boston should ever be too comfortable with this idea that everybody that they see in November is going to be there in the spring. I think you have to develop your team to play with a variety of different guys. I actually thought Boston didn't get enough credit for that last year. Like everybody was belly aching about, Boston's road in through the Eastern Conference as if, Kristaps Porzingis didn't miss 2 entire playoff series. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, and part of the finals.
People acted like the Boston Celtics were the first team ever to get some luck in the damn playoffs when every single Boston Celtics playoff run with Brown or Tatum on the team has been impacted by player availability. Like for crying out loud, Malcolm Brogdon was playing with his arm falling off. Jason Tatum sprains his ankle. Otherwise, we might have been talking about the first 3-0 comeback in NBA postseason history. Like that's where that series was going. We all saw it. Like Jaylen Brown missed an entire postseason because he broke his wrist or whatever. Like the Celtics have had plenty of bad luck. Porzingis missed the first part of this season. I think that again, look at the playoffs last year. Porzingis got hurt in round 1, came back, got hurt again, came back, got hurt so seriously that he needed a 5-month surgery. So like I don't think anyone in Boston should be like, oh yeah, this is going to go great. Like, no, it's not. It doesn't work like that. I think teams, the East right now as a whole is embarrassing, but that's not going to be the case the entire year. I mean, look, the Milwaukee Bucks have already gone from dumpster fire to back to 500, just tonight. Like
they played the Celtics tough in a couple games to start this year.
Yeah, because they're supposed to. They're built to be a team that is a contender, right? Like we're not gonna, dismiss that. The New York Knicks, they got bombed out in the season opener. I guarantee you that's not gonna be, something that happens in the next matchups to come. Like the Knicks are going to act like the Boston Celtics shoot threes. I'm gonna just go out on a limb on that one. Like the Philadelphia 76ers, look, you better hope that Joel Embiid and Paul George don't get it together, you know, like they're at a low point. They're probably going to be a play-in team just because. I mean, look, the East is uninspiring. So that's the thing, though. It's exciting to me that these teams in the East have kind of struggled because it gives you more to watch as the season develops. We've only gotten past the 20% mark this past weekend. And so the Bucks have regular season games that matter. The Sixers have regular season games that matter. The Knicks, garbage defense right now, but being coached by a guy in Tom Thibodeau who, is hell bent on playing guys 35, 40 minutes in regular season games as if, the playoffs have another half a year to go, right? Like they have plenty to play for. They have to develop something. They got to figure out who the heck can help these guys so that they don't have to play 30 minutes every night.
The Heat
I'm
too. Like, can the Heat keep this thing together?
the Miami Heat are hovering around 500. They've been a mid regular season team every single year with Jimmy Butler, except the year they were the one seed, where surprise, surprise, they lost the game seven at home to who? The Boston Celtics. Like the Cleveland Cavaliers being extraordinary to begin this season adds some intrigue to this season because now you have a team that already is familiar with Boston because of the playoffs last year. They had their guy out. They were going through multiple levels of infighting. Now they have their stuff together. The Celtics are chasing a team that last year they weren't really chasing a team like that, right? The Orlando Magic. I love how the Magic are playing. They're an Eastern Conference team that's won 9 out of 10 with their best player not playing. And maybe Paolo's not their best player. That is a debate now because of how well Franz Wagner is playing. And we all know that the Magic play the Celtics incredibly well. When the Magic were ashy, like they were getting on Eddie House's case about how the Magic kept on, playing the Celtics better than other teams were playing them. Now the Magic are legitimate and they don't have the excuse of not having playoff experience anymore. They've been hurt. They had an 18-point lead in a game seven that they blew. So the East is incredibly intriguing to me, and not because I feel like the conferences should be abolished. Like everyone wants to dismantle stuff. Like, this ain't the Civil War. It's basketball. So like we just gotta play it out, Bobby. It's November. They're playing well. They're ahead of last year's pace, which is insane to think about. They're playing like a defending champion that still is hungry. That is also cool because we've seen defending champions, the Los Angeles Lakers, Dallas Mavericks from more than a decade ago, be satisfied with their chip, you know what I'm saying? And either don't come out with the same energy or don't come with the same kind of roster or they're just done. Their era is cooked. The Celtics clearly every one of those guys has a lot more to want to play for, and that's rare. And they have the target on their back too. I think it makes for intriguing ball. I do not think it makes for any guarantees come April.
Who do you think's the biggest threat to them among the teams you mentioned?
Uh, I really want to see what the Magic look like. Though I'm not even kidding. I want to see what
December
the I want to see
December
what
23rd. That game's circled for me.
yeah, I want to see that matchup. I want to see who plays, how they play, how physical it gets. I want to see teams that prioritize taking the 3-pointer away. Okay, and I also am interested to see teams that suck at shooting threes themselves. So you have to. That's the thing. Like the other margin that people don't talk about. Everyone's talking about Boston shooting the threes. Boston is defending the three way better than they did a year ago. I asked Joe about this because this is what I do. I asked Joe about threes, right? And Joe's philosophy last year was, well, we're going to take more threes than our opponents anyway. So, their priority was walling off the paint. Well, this season, and again, we'll see how that progresses with Porzingis in the lineup. But
Did
I mean,
did you see that chart? There was a chart of like which centers are guarding the perimeter the most percent of the time. And it was Kata, Horford, Cornette.
Yeah, like I did not see the chart. I love being offline, so shout out to me. Um, I don't have fear of missing out when it comes to social media, man. Social media can kick rocks for real, for real.
Right.
I missed the chart though, Bobby. I apologize. But that being
I'll send
said,
it to you after. But it was
yeah,
interesting because they're obviously, like you said, last year they're dropping back, taking away the rim. This year they're switching those guys out and taking the threes away.
right, and that's what hurts you. It's like again, the conversation of the threes are always offensive slanted. It's always geared towards let's look at how many threes this team shot at the end of the game. It's not looking at how those teams get those threes, and it's not looking at we don't talk about 3-point defense. You know, all you hear is don't look at percentages because percentages are imaginary and you can't control them. It's Jedi defense. I mean, yeah, sometimes, but you know what's not imaginary? It's not imaginary when you're beating the hell out of dudes before they get the ball and their shot is sometimes off. Like if you play guys a certain way where they're not getting the looks or they're not comfortable or they've had to fight through all kinds of action just to get to a point where they can attempt a shot, then you can't be like, oh, he was just off that day. He was 1 of 10 shooting threes. It's like, yeah, he's 1 of 10 because they kept going at his ass. So, you know, the Magic will do that to you. I mean, they employ a football player as a point guard, and Jalen Suggs. Like that's all. Jalen Suggs is there to hit people, man, as a guard, right? And we don't talk about that. We just talk about like this team made 10 more threes than their opponent. Like, okay, well, if you're the Boston Celtics, you're getting hit double because they're shooting a bunch of threes. Their opponents are not. The game that I saw Monday night with the Clippers, a team that shoots incredibly well but does not do a great job generating attempts. I mean, the Celtics were literally hitting three after three after three in the second quarter, and the Clippers were just shooting two after two after two. The Clippers only attempted 5 threes in that second quarter. They only attempted for that first half 12 threes total. So yeah, like you got a Clippers team that would love to get good looks, but they can't generate those looks. And Boston's defense had a big role in that. And we don't talk about that. We just go straight to the threes that the Celtics attempt as an offense.
Yeah, that first Magic Celtics game last year, the tournament game, 29 threes attempted for the Celtics in that one. Obviously, they averaged over 40 a game last year, and the Magic win that one going away, only
And they
attempting
came back.
28.
That was a double digit comeback, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
that fell short. So uh, that's an interesting matchup. You know, I'm looking at that one too, and you know, there's not a lot of conversation about the Magic, despite them being one of the best defenses in the league, and they could have powered back by that point. You know, like you said, though, I'd actually rather see it without it, given the way that they've, found a new identity without him here, and Franz has gotten going and all of that. I want to ask you about the Clippers before we get out of here. I want to give a shout out quick to Nutrafol right now. Great time for gifts. And you can go over there and get the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1 million people. Thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months. That's a gift you want to give right now. And it's, specialized for whoever needs it. Men, women, one size fits all approach to hair growth doesn't cut it. They got multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors. So you get exactly what you need. 100% drug-free ingredients. They offer healthy hair growth from within by targeting the key root causes of thinning, stress, hormones, aging, nutrition, lifestyle, and metabolism through whole body health. So whether you're gifting it for yourself or a loved one, give the gift of great hair growth this holiday season. Right now, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off any order. Enjoy free shipping when you subscribe. Go to Nutrafol.com. Enter the promo code GARDENGIFT. That's GARDENGIFT. And that's Nutrafol, NUTRAFOL.com. Promo code GARDENGIFT. Nutrafol.com, GARDENGIFT. So, how are you looking at this Clippers season, Law? We know we're not going to see a lot of Kawhi. Powell has taken the reins and done so amazingly. I'm kind of bummed I didn't get to see him play yesterday in person while he's been out here. But Zubats, Derek Jones coming in, Paul George out the door, Chris Dunn, doing Chris Dunn things. it's an interesting roster. Obviously, like the George thing was the George thing, and he goes out to Philly, and Kawhi hurt to start the year, and it just continues a string of health concerns for him. And you start thinking about like, maybe even his career at this point, like where that's going. But they've been competitive, and that's what Ty Lue does. That's they got good players in there to fill that George spot, and it's defense. Like they're just finding a new identity without Kawhi, without George, and I thought they were going to compete more in this game, but obviously what happened there when no Powell, like we said. So how are you looking at this thing? What's the story of this team this season?
Well, I don't like leading off stories with assistant coaches, but Jeff Van Gundy is arguably the most talked about assistant coach in the league. Obviously he had his year in Boston as a consultant, and I'm really, everyone's just thrilled to have him around. He has made an impact with the players. He's made an impact with the coaching staff. He has made an impact with this team because this is the best defense that the Clippers have played in a long time.
By
Certainly,
the way, that story Ty told last night, him showing up at like 5 a.m. every day. I heard that in Boston too. Like he's there before anybody, just drinking Diet Coke and watching film.
yeah, I don't think that's healthy at all. But uh, you know what I'm saying? Like Jeff Van Gundy, every time I see Jeff, it look like he just woke up. So, but nah, Jeff has made a real impact. Like, and I studied Jeff's teams. I talked to a bunch of guys who played for Jeff on his previous teams to get an understanding of what I might be, what I might be seeing as early as training camp, and um, he's on brand. They take the paint away. They are rebounding. I don't know how they're doing it. It feels like a Jedi mind trick the way that they are leading the league in defensive rebound percentage. Ivica Zubats has gone from he's cool to a legitimate contender for an all defensive team, in my opinion. Like he does everything that you ask a guy to do. But what helped Zubats be as good as he's been is the presence of real dogs on defense. Like Chris Dunn is blow things up. He did it, you know, in Monday night. Like Chris Dunn was really at it. He had a stretch of bad plays in the second quarter where he gave up back to back and ones, on jump shots. You never want to really see that, but what you do want to see is the fact that that guy is like locked in. Even if he's not creating the big play, he's preventing the big play offensively. Derrick Jones Jr. has just been solid. Like they just and it's like if this team were to ever get Kawhi back, there will be better, not because of Kawhi himself, but because Kawhi's presence as a bigger forward allows them to, put Derek on more places, whereas they save Derek, for, point of attack stuff late in games if they need to, or second half adjustments. Imagine Kawhi being out there and Derek being able to do that just more often because there's another wing his size, really a bigger wing. Nico Batum coming back has helped, because it gives them a big wing that can guard 1 through 5, legitimately 1 through 5. So that's been the story of the Clippers. James Harden is having a thoroughly inefficient year. Turnovers, missed shots inside and outside the arc. But James Harden is also a real presence out there, a guy who can make every single pass, a guy who prepares his team to play before, during, and through games. What I mean by that is he is collaborating with the coaching staff, which is what he said he wanted to do when he declared himself to be a system. He is the guy who, if he's making the play, then obviously he's making the play, but he's helping his team when he's off the floor as well. Like those guys are playing pretty good basketball, even when James isn't on the floor. And so James gets a lot of credit for being the leader that he is, being an experienced vet, and still being a guy who's talented enough to, be at the top of the league when it comes to assists per game. If this team can ever take care of the basketball, then they're going to be one of the top, and they're going to be in the top half offensively because they get good shots and they have good shot makers. Norman Powell, he showed that he can pretty much play the role that Paul George didn't really want to play, which is an off-ball threat who gets enough on-ball touches to possibly lead the team in scoring. Well, Norm has done that. Norm is leading the Clippers in scoring. So this is a team with a lot of players who are playing well. Sometimes it's just that simple, Bobby. Sometimes it's just as simple as, do you have guys that are playing well? And I don't even think they can all be better, especially James. James has a track record of playing better basketball than he has right now. And it just gives the Clippers a chance every single game. Monday night was only the third time out of 19 games where the Clippers didn't have a double-digit lead at some point in the game. That is kind of ridiculous to think about. So at some point in the game, the Clippers are capable of beating the shit out of you. If they didn't get down by so much Monday night because of the 3-point barrage and their inattention to certain things defensively, I thought what made Tyronn Lue happiest after Monday night's game is the fact that that 29-point lead got cut to 14 with about 4 minutes left, just over 4 minutes left in the third quarter, And then, again, Derek gambles and Peyton Pritchard gets an open three. The Celtics hit 4 threes in the last 4 minutes of the third quarter, and the game was pretty much a wrap after that. They're tough to deal with, and that's pretty much what people have gotten used to. Maybe people who didn't expect it from the Clippers this season.
Yeah, and now you see how they're playing, and you're like, they're in that mix for top 6 there, and certainly for the play-in territory there in the West, and it's packed. They're 3 games back of first. They're 2.5 games up on 11, or 12 rather. So big swings could happen in just a small number of games out there in the West, and that's how it's probably going to be all year out there. So they're in it, though, and you just wonder about Kawhi. Like, do you expect to see him anytime soon this year? Like, where's your head at on that?
Everything that I've gotten publicly and privately is that Kawhi is going to be there at some point. And that's the positive. The negative, and it's a real negative, at this point, guy is going to miss the first quarter of the NBA season after the team said, oh, he could have, Kawhi probably would have wanted to participate in training camp, but we're holding him out. Like, we've gone from that to him not showing up at all, before December. And so the negative with that is it's hard to kind of take anybody's word right now, even Kawhi's. Kawhi has stated multiple times that he intends to play and he's going to do everything. We know that he's doing everything to play. 100% is kind of a misnomer. Like, players who never get hurt talk about how they're never 100%. Think about that. So I expect them to play sometime this winter. At this point, I'm not really putting a date on it. Like, if it's December, awesome. Not awesome. It's later than I thought it would be, personally. But I feel like whenever he comes back, he's going to need a month to actually show something. December does give the Clippers a lot of opportunities for days off, practices, something that they didn't have all in November. But again, his teammates in talking to me, again, a lot of that just not in front of microphones and stuff. Like, there's been teammates, there's been the coaching staff says he's progressing. There's been no setbacks, but they're all wary of a setback if they rush him back, if they don't do the right things to make sure that when he shows up, he can stay on the floor. We see what Joel Embiid is going through in Philadelphia. Poor communication with the league. He comes back, he winds up missing games. We're not even going to talk about the suspension there, but everything that's going on with Joel suggests that he's not a healthy player. You got asshole fans out here who think that he should just play because he's under contract, and then he gets out there and looks terrible, and then gets hurt a week later, or the swelling reappears, and then what? Like, you got fans who want to talk about these players retiring as if they're doing us a favor. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you just gotta appreciate guys when they're able to play and hope that they're able to stay out there and play at their best, because there are there aren't that many great basketball players. So, hopefully the Clippers can get a great basketball player when Kawhi is ready to play, whenever that is.
And when he played last year, he was great and played most of last year. So I'm looking forward to it whenever it is. I'm looking forward to the January trip out there, first visit to the Intuit Dome, and we'll see Lon Murray out there when we get out there. Thanks for being here a lot. Always good talking to you. Great pleasant surprise to see you yesterday too. And stay well, man.
Hey, same to you, man. Take care.
Yeah, and check his work out. All the latest on the Clippers and the rest of the league over on The Athletic and the New York Times. We'll be back Friday night. Celtics Bulls. See if the Celtics can get in that NBA Cup or not here on the Garden Report. So keep following along. Subscribe here on CLNS Media and Celtics All Access. Good night.